Hi, welcome back to Burbex, Brin's Urban Exploration. Today we're going to take a look at Pendulum. No, not that pendulum, this pendulum. Specifically, we're going to look at how when you buy a new pendulum, you can cleanse it. I'm here in the abandoned Tiandu Hotel. I'm up here on the top floor, which would have been the executive lounges, and this is going to be my headquarters for the next few videos. The reason I've come here to make this video about pendulums is that this is the only building where I've ever felt a real strong ghostly presence, and it scared me so much that I haven't been back here for more than a year, and you can see that in this video here. I finally decided that it's time for me to come back here, and what I want to do is go down to the basement where I experienced that feeling and see if we can communicate with the entity that's down there. With that in mind, I want to have a nice clean pendulum so that I can try and communicate with whatever's down there, if anything's down there at all. Let's go. There are 5 different methods that we're going to look at in this video. Smudging, exposure to sunlight, exposure to moonlight, using sea salt, and also making a blessing over the pendulum itself. This is my pendulum. It's a green quartz pendulum with red flecks that run through it, and I bought this at a very large market at Buenos Aires in Argentina. There were a large selection of these pendulums for sale, but as I ran my hand over them, I got a real strong sense from this one. When you choose a pendulum, make sure that you get a feeling towards that stone, towards that pendulum. So the first thing we're going to look at is called smudging. Smudging basically uses wormwood sticks like this, which can be used to cleanse a room or to cleanse your pendulum too. And you can see this in the previous video where I showed you how to exorcise a ghost from your house. We take one of these. Now it's a bit difficult to get the end off, so just bite it off like you would a cigar, but it's not a cigar. You want to light it up. It takes a little while to get these things going. These are also called moxibustion sticks, and moxibustion is a bit like acupuncture, but instead of needles it uses the hot end of one of these moxibustion sticks, and it's very common in China. You can see that the smoke is starting to get going now. You can see there's a nice smoke coming off that. And what we're going to do is just take the smoke over this. This actually cleanses the pendulum. Other people have touched this pendulum, the person who sold it, maybe other customers who are thinking about buying it, and it's absorbed some of their energy. So what we need to do is just cleanse it of other people's energy so it can absorb our energy, and then it'll be more focused. And you probably want to do this for about 5 minutes. And it's quite beautiful watching the smoke actually coming off the pendulum. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, I'm going to leave this smoking in the room because it's actually going to cleanse my ghostly headquarters here. So the first one, wormwood sticks. The next one we've got is sunlight, and you basically leave your pendulum exposed in sunlight, and the best sunlight that you can get is very first thing in the morning as the sun is rising, and there's that nice fresh sunlight. But that leads into number 3 as well, and number 3 is moonlight. And I was very lucky a couple of days ago because it was mid-autumn night. That's the night when the moon is brightest, and it was fantastic. I hung up the pendulum in the window and let the pendulum absorb the moonlight. And actually, when I picked it up the next morning, it was very, very cool. It had that nice cool feeling, so I think it absorbed some of the moonlight. Next one To be honest, this place kind of freaks me out a little bit. Every time I come here I get the feeling that there's people in the building, but there's not. Just little sounds. Anyway, the next thing you need to do is you need to find a little bag, and you can see I've got this little pouch here, and what you want to do is fill it specifically with sea salt. You can see I'm using Kirkland Pure sea salt. This says it was harvested from the pristine waters of Brazil's northern coast. This sea salt is 100% natural. And again, what you're looking for is pure sea salt. You don't want manufactured sea salt, you want pure natural sea salt. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our pouch and fill this pouch with salt. And I've actually spilled a lot of salt on the table. Remember, if you spill salt, take a pinch of salt with your right hand and throw it over your left shoulder, because the devil is always behind your left shoulder, and that will protect you from bad luck. Now you've got your little pouch of salt, just put your pendulum in there, tie it up, and you want to keep this on your body somewhere, alright? So you can keep it in your pocket, for example, or maybe in an amulet around your neck. It has a dual purpose here, because the salt will cleanse the pendulum, but at the same time the pendulum is absorbing your body's energy. There's a double effect there. This needs to stay with you probably for about 24 hours. So the last thing that we're going to do, and this is the last and final stage, is almost like a blessing, right? So I'm going to call this stage the blessing. Let's just wipe off all our salt. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to put it between our hands, and we're going to imagine that there is a white cleansing light shining on our pendulum, and we just really want to focus on that. And you can even say like a few personal words to your pendulum. So for my pendulum, I'm hoping that you can guide me through my dark times, because I'm very depressed at the moment, and I hope that you can help me make good decisions and find the wisdom that I need to get through these difficult times. That's all you have to do to cleanse your pendulum. So we had smudging, which is using the wormwood sticks. We had sunlight and moonlight. We used the sea salt in a small pouch, and also we visualized the cleansing light. As an extra step, what I want to show you now is actually how to test the pendulum. It's almost like calibration, right? When you get a pendulum, you don't actually know what the movements of your pendulum signify. So we have to figure that out first. And what I'm going to do that, we've still got our salt. I've got a lot of salt left on the table. I'm just going to take my salt and I'm going to put this in the palm of my hand. You can see I have the salt in the palm of my hand. Now that the pendulum is cleansed, it should be able to give us answers already. We don't know how to decode the answers. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to hold this over, and we're going to ask a true or false question. And the true or false question I'm going to ask is this salt? I know this is salt, right? So we're just going to hold this over it and say, is this salt? And because the answer is yes, we're going to look for the movement. And the movement I can see is a very tiny circle in an anti-clockwise direction. And that's getting bigger now. So that indicates to me that the anti-clockwise circle like that is actually yes or true. Let's try it with a different question. Let's try and keep the pendulum still. Is this gold? It's starting to shake now. I'm really not bullshitting you. I can see that this is starting to move in a clockwise direction, in a clockwise circle. Some people might argue about how this works, but it's not necessarily a spiritual or a ghostly thing. It's that the pendulum can actually focus the body's energy through maybe micro movements. We have a number of senses and abilities that a lot of humans don't know about, and one of these is maybe that we can channel our micro movements through a pendulum, so that even if we feel like we're sitting very, very still, being as still as possible, our emotions and our mood is actually focused through the pendulum, and that is often how it can work. And what I want you to think about is like pendulums are almost like a magician's wand, in that they can focus your energy. It's like the tip of an aerial almost, in that the pendulum on its own cannot communicate with spirits and it can't give us correct answers. It's only when the pendulum is paired with a person that it can do these things. And it kind of helps us channel our energies. And many people talk about the sixth sense, being able to communicate with a ghost or a spirit. And the pendulum can actually help us channel that. It turns our whole body into this aerial which can pick up the signals. With that in mind, I'm going to go downstairs and I'm going to go into the deepest, darkest part of this hotel. I'm actually very, very afraid to go down there, because every time I go down there I get this bone-chilling feeling and my blood turns to ice. It's so cold down there, and I really think that there is something down there, and I really want to try and communicate with it to overcome my fears. I think if I can overcome that fear, I can really push through this depression that I'm running through. If you like this video, be sure to hit like and subscribe for great new videos from Burbex, Brin's Urban Exploration, every week. And be sure to tune in for part 2, where I go down to the basement of this hotel and see if we can communicate with the entity that lives down there. Let's go.